Yes, now ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our review of The Dead Zone. Despite being advertised as a horror thriller, David Cronenburg's The Dead Zone, released in 1983, is much more thrilling than horrifying. In the poster, the classic horror associated colours black, white and red are used. The poster also depicts a figure walking down the middle of the tunnel we see in the film. The colours of the isolated area of the tunnel and the anonymous silhouette imply that the film is much more horror than it is, which can be disappointing to avid horror enjoyers. Though the film, in my opinion, lacks as a horror, there are some frightening themes. An example of this is in the first premonition Johnny sees. The shocking, abrasive music and Johnny's unexpected jolt juxtaposes the serene moment of the nurse calmly tending to Johnny moments before. The surprise is certainly scary and unexpected. The continuous usage of suspenseful music and judicious choice of where and where not to include it contributes to the horror side of the movie. The cop killer segment is also a good example of horror within the movie. The inclusion of creepy children's toys, the lack of music and sound, and dim lighting in Dodd's house before Sheriff Banner and Johnny discover Dodd's twitching body come together to create a disturbing atmosphere. Dodd's silent suicide is gruesome and bloody, and the scissor method is stomach churning. Despite all of this, there are much more appropriate films to watch if horror is your go-to. The pacing of the film is disrupted by the order of the abrupt story arcs, opposed to ordering the severity of the premonitions from less to more severe to create a building thrill. Cronenberg throws not only Johnny but also the viewer into the deep end with the cop killer arc. The sheriff attempting to recruit Johnny to help with cases, Johnny's internal conflict over his newfound powers, and the twist of Frank Dodd being the killer all along is immersive and enjoyable. But the immersion is quickly ripped from the viewer by the tutoring arc. Whilst the events do lead Johnny to Greg Silson and the mundane tutoring storyline completely juxtaposes the events prior and the engrossment that was built, the flip-flopping between seemingly short-lived storylines dilutes and distracts the viewer from the potentially well-told story about a man who struggles with his new powers but still uses them for good. As a result of this, The Dead Zone may have been better presented as a series, so each arc, including Johnny and Sarah's relationship, could have been explored thoroughly. Despite the issue with the pacing, Christopher Walken's and Martin Sheen's performances, Johnny Smith and Greg Stilson, were notable. Walken's ability to portray Johnny's understandable inner schism relating to his powers and heartbreak after finding out Sarah had been married to another man brought not only the character but was also a part of the story to his life. The likability of Johnny as a protagonist makes the viewer not only care about him, but also about the story as a result. Sheen's performance as the politician Greg Stilson, the film's antagonist, introduces a real sense of threat. He's loud, opinionated, and what makes his character so threatening is his power. Martin Sheen conveys Stilson's corrupt nature and his willingness to carry out heinous crimes, such as blackmail, to get his way so well that the viewer is left on the edge of the seat, watching, to see Johnny and Stilson's interactions. Overall, I think The Dead Zone by David Cronenberg is much more of a thriller than a horror. So if you like thrillers, you can go watch The Dead Zone. If you like horrors, you can go watch something else. Thank you. Goodbye.